Okay, so tonight we're going to be talking about tefillah. We're going to be talking about prayer in the eyes of Rebbe Nachman from Breslov, and this is a continuation of the series of Rebbe Nachman's wisdom. And we're talking about his Badadut, we're talking about Tehillim, we're talking about different aspects which are connected to tefillah. So now I'd like to speak about tefillah itself, the concept of prayer. Rebbe Nachman was very into prayer. Rebbe Nachman said that Kol ha'inyan shali hu tefillah, that my entire life is about tefillah. The entire thing that I want to impart upon my students is about tefillah. And he's not the first one to say this. That David Melech said, "Va'ani tefillah," that I am prayer, and it's what I'm all about. It's what my essence is, and so that means it means many things kabbalistically, but then also on a simple level, it means that the most important thing in his life was tefillah. So. And now Rebbe Nachman, when he said that his whole thing is tefillah, he certainly meant that tefillah is the tachlis, it's the goal. And in the works of Rebbe Nachman, you find a very interesting thing, that we know in Judaism, so we have Torah is a huge thing, and we have tefillah is a huge thing. The Gemara says, the Mishnah says in Pirkei Avos that Ashleisha Dvarim ha'olam amid, that there's three things that the world is dependent on: ala Torah, v'ala avodah, v'ala gemilas chasadim, and Torah study, and avodah, which is a reference to prayer, and gemilut chasadim, which is acts of kindness. Okay, so the first two, learning Torah and davening, so they're both similar in the fact that they're ways of connecting with God. Gemilut chasadim is making the world into a better place. It's a different chapter. But the first two of Torah and Tefillah, so they're rivals in a certain sense, meaning that a person can ask what's actually higher, Torah or Tefillah. Okay. So it could be argued that this is a Hasidic idea, that in fact there is a very interesting commentary of the Ben Ish Chai. He has a commentary on Shas called Benayahu, and in this book Benayahu, so he's going on the Gemara in Sanhedrin. The Gemara says that there's a certain dispute about. It says that Adam la'amal yulad, the man was created to toil, and there's a dispute between the sages that what's it mean la'amal? It says amal Torah or amal tefillah. It means the toiling in Torah or toiling in prayer. And so the Ben Ish Chai writes that he thinks that this dispute between the sages, which is what's the pasuk talking about? What was the person created for? What was it? You were born to toil, and so that this machlekes is actually, he quotes that he claims that this is the machlekes between the Hasidim and the Misnagdim, between the Hasidic approach, that the Hasidim put more of an emphasis on prayer, and the Hasidically challenged approach is to put more of an emphasis on Torah study. Okay, so this was there was in fact one of the things that the Baal Shem Tov made a revolution, that to put such an emphasis on prayer, that before his time, so the emphasis was put on, for better or for worse, the emphasis was put on Torah, and the problem was that made Judaism very exclusive. It made Judaism only meant for the people who had high intellectual capabilities, and the people that weren't made to be Torah scholars, so they really didn't have such a place in Judaism. So the part of the thing of the Baal Shem Tov was that he took these peasants, these simple people that until now were being told that Judaism isn't really for you, you're always going to be class Z. So he told them, no, you could actually have a deep relationship with Hashem. You're holy, that you can really make it. And so this is absolutely a Hasidic idea to put Torah as on a pedestal. But I believe the Rebbe Nachman made more of a philosophy about it, an ideology about it, because there's a very beautiful work, and I highly recommend really checking it out. It could be that I've mentioned this. I've mentioned it in different places in the Hizbadus classes, but there's a book called Likutei Tefillot. Likutei Tefillot. They translated it to English. I don't remember what it's called in English. Maybe the 50th gate. I'm not sure. And what is the Likutei Tefillot? The Likutei Tefillot is prayers. It's prayers written by Rebbe Nachman from Breslov, Rebbe Nachman's student, Rebbe Nachman, and it's prayers that he wrote. That he made up prayers to ask Hashem to help him succeed in life, to help him succeed in being a Jew, about many different things. So he has prayers before Shabbos about Hashem, please allow me to to get the most out of Shabbos. Please help me that I shouldn't break Shabbos. Please help me that I should feel Shabbos. Please help me that everything should go right. Please help me that I shouldn't go crazy. Please help me that I should get the Kiddush right, that I should get be good with my family and be good, right? And everything, and it very much at length. It goes through all the different details and all the different things of the things that could go wrong with every particular part of, and telling Hashem why it makes sense for Him to help us, that we should do that, and Shabbos is so great. I know the Shabbos is like this and like that and like that, and I want to connect to that aspect of Shabbos and this aspect of Shabbos. And then he has prayers about going to the mikvah, and he has prayers about Yom Kippur, and he has prayers about tzedakah, and he has prayers about just Yiras Shamayim. And so, what is the background behind this book? So, the context of this book is that Rebbe Nachman, he asked Rebbe Nosson to write this book. He told him that I want you to make from the Torot tefillot, la'asot min ha-Torot tefillot, to turn the Torahs into tefillos. And that is the background of how this book, Likutei Tefillos, came to be. And so what he did is that it's actually Likutei Tefillos is based on Likutei Moharan. The Likutei Moharan is Rebbe Nachman's book of Torahs. And so that almost every Torah, so on Torah Aleph in the Likutei Moharan has corresponding to Torah Aleph is Tefillah Aleph, which is a prayer to internalize all of the elements included in Torah Aleph, and so on and so forth, in Torah Aleph and Torah Bet, with the whole Likutei Moharan. So that is the background of how Likutei Tefillot came to be. And just as an aside, it's actually a very powerful book. Sometimes a person feels like I'm just disconnected, and what's beautiful about the Likutei Tefillos is that when you read the words, so you can try to become one with the words of Rebbe Nosson, and you can find this place inside of you that feels these emotions that he's trying to express in these words, and that the place in your heart that actually feels it gets woken up, so you feel connected in a way that you didn't feel before, and it's really amazing. It's really very powerful. It's it should be like this without tefillas, right? It should be like this without prayers, that you just start saying Tehillim and suddenly you get into it, but it doesn't always happen. But when you have the words of a person who's more connected to us, that he lived 300 years ago, it sounds like David Melech that lived some 3,000 years ago. It's much more relatable, and his challenges are much more our challenges, and the kind of things that he thinks about are the kind of things that we think about. So that's why for most of us it's much more easy to connect with the words of Rebbe Nosson than it is to connect with the words of the Anshe Knesset Gdola, for example, or David Melech, for example. So it's very powerful that we can waken ourselves up from our slumber through becoming one with the words of Rebbe Nosson. So that's just my sales pitch for the Likutei Tefillos. But what I want to bring from this story is that wasn't mean to turn my Torahs into tefillos. What he's saying is that if you turn my Torahs into tefillos, then you're elevating them. Okay, and Rebbe Nachman himself hints to this idea in his Sefer Likutei Moharan, because in the book Likutei Moharan, so Torah Aleph is actually about Torah. It's a Torah about Torah. It's a Torah, which makes sense. It's like an intro to his Torah. Is before I teach you everything I want to teach you, I want to teach you a thing or two about teaching you a thing or two about the concept of learning Torah and why it's so powerful to learn Torah and what's the purpose of learning Torah, etc. And so Torah Aleph is about Torah, and Torah Bet is about Tefillah. So in this sequence that he was writing the Likutei Moharan, so really he was hinting to this idea that in these two ways of connecting with God, so you have Torah and Tefillah, so which is the means and which is the ends. So Torah is the means and Tefillah is the ends. Okay? It's not that we daven in order to learn, even though we do daven to learn. We do daven to learn. That's why it's confusing, because for example, we daven in Avarabba, we daven Hashem, please help us. We ask Hashem, help us to understand Torah. So that Hashem connect us to your Torah. And so we daven to be able to learn, but the truth is that that's really not the end goal. The goal of the learning is to be able to daven. Okay, the meaning that through the learning we know how to daven, we know what to daven for, and it allows our davening to be on a higher level. Okay, so what is this question? What is this? Especially if we're going to make this the question of Hasidish versus not Hasidish. So what is really the crux of this question of which is higher? Is Torah higher or is Tefillah higher? Okay. So there's a very beautiful idea that I think Rebbe Nachman is unique in the fact that he's the only one who talks about this very openly. Rebbe Nachman has a story. It's called the story of the 7 beggars. And Rebbe Nachman was very fond of the story. Rebbe Nachman said that if he would have only come down into the world for the one reason of sharing this Torah, the story, it would have been worth it. It would have been worth his entire life of suffering. It would have been worth coming down to this world. If the only positive thing that he ever did was to share this story with the world, the story of the 7 beggars, he thought it was a very, very amazing, awesome, spiritual story that has the power to really make a revolution in the world. And what's the story? What's the story of the 7 beggars? So it's a story about this boy and girl that are lost, and they're orphans. They lost their entire city is killed, and their entire families are killed, and they ran away from some war, and they're lost in the forest, and they're going to die in the forest, and then how do they stay alive? How do they survive? They survive because they meet these 7 beggars that help them survive. They give them food and give them advice. So then at some point they get back to civilization, and they hang out with the beggars, and the beggars decide that it would be a good idea for this boy and girl to get married, and they make a wedding, and the wedding, so they have a celebration, and in the celebration they think that it would be so nice if the beggar that saved us, if they could come to celebrate with us. And then out of nowhere, that first beggar came, and then the second day, the second beggar came, etc., etc. And that's the story of the Shefa Baruch. The whole story is that the 7 beggars tell. So what's unique about the story is that the beggars are the heroes. The hero of the story, which once again, this is what Rebbe Nachman considers the most important story he ever told, which is this is the story of the Jewish people. This is the story of how to bring the world to its tikkun. And so the story of stories, who is the hero of the story of stories? The beggars. Okay? So usually we think of beggars as like the lowlifes, right? Usually we think of the beggars as the failures. And Rebbe Nachman is saying, no, not the beggars. They are the holiest thing around. That there is nothing greater. And the beggar, whoa. Like who? The Mashiach, he was a beggar. He was there's nothing holier. There's nothing more awesome than being a beggar. If somebody writes on the shidduch resume that their profession is that they're a beggar, so then you should that's what. So what's Rebbe Nachman trying to say with this idea? There was
I don't think he invented the idea that the lowly members of society kind of inherit the history. It's a pretty recurring theme in Judaism, in the Tanakh.
In Tanakh, really? Where do you find in Tanakh that the...
Well, it was all the lower class Jews who left Babel to come back to build the second temple. A lot of the aristocracy stayed in Babel, for example.
That's a good point. That sometimes having a lot of money can just help you lose focus, right?
Yeah.
But I think Rebbe Nachman is saying something deeper than that. I think that what Rebbe Nachman is saying is that there's something objectively beautiful. It's better to be a beggar than to not be a beggar. And I don't think he means this literally. I don't think that's why I was actually joking about the thing about the being a beggar is a good thing, even though it's not the end of the world, and if you never know. There's a story about some rabbi that he wasn't sure. The people were telling him he was telling him he wants to move to Israel, and they were telling him, but how are you gonna survive? How are you gonna have a job? So he was a rabbi. He was in Europe. He was a rabbi. And who says that you're gonna be a rabbi in Israel? Who says that you're gonna have any means to support yourself? So he said, so I'll just be a poor man. That's what I'll be. That's it was so important for him to be in Israel that he was even willing to be a poor man. He meant that in a sacrifice kind of way. That's how important. Could you pass me the water, please? That Israel is so important to him that he's even willing to forego having money. He's even willing to be a beggar in order to fulfill his dream of living in Israel. But he didn't mean it that it's an ideal. So what does Rabbi Nachman mean? And what does it mean to put the beggars as the heroes of mankind? To have the heroes, these are the ones saving the world. So he means something very, very deep. And that is that the truest way to exist is to be a beggar. And therefore a person who's not a beggar, so they aren't actually in touch with reality. Okay? Why is that? So that to be a beggar means that it's connected to a huge theme in Judaism of hakarat hatov. Okay, hakarat hatov, gratitude. So there's a beautiful Torah. There's a beautiful Torah from Rav Hutner that he said this on Purim and on Chanukah once, because Chanukah is all about lahadot or lahalel. So he noted that in Hebrew, so the word lahadot has two meanings. The word lahadot means to give thanks. It also means to admit. Okay? So why, he asked, why do we use this? Why does he use the same word for thanking and to admit? To admit that to say that you're guilty. To admit that it means lahadot, to give in, to
give in.
Yeah, to give it. So he said that really a true thank you, a true gratitude is by definition admitting something. And what is that? To actually give gratitude, you need to admit that you needed help. If I don't admit that I needed your help, so then my gratitude isn't a real gratitude. Okay? A true gratitude needs to accept that I wasn't okay and you needed to help me. Okay? And this is why it's very difficult for people to take favors, because the people like to fool themselves that they're okay. I remember that I was sitting with a student on Nissenbacher, and there was this girl that's walking down the street with 15 bags, and she's stopping and falling, and I said, could I help you? And she's, no, I'm fine. I'm thinking you're such a liar. Everyone sees you're not fine. You're not fooling anybody. So people have this desire to fool themselves that I'm okay. And so I heard about this guy that he was on a plane. He was on a plane to America. He was an Israeli guy on a plane to America, and he was telling the person next to him that in America there's so much achnasat orchim, everybody's taking in guests, but especially if you tell them you're from Israel, then people jump for you, people are going to fight over you. But I just book a hotel. That's the way I do things. I don't like to owe anybody anything. And so the guy that was sitting next to him, he was a sharp man, and he said, "Really, you don't like to owe anybody anything? You don't need your friends, you don't need your family, you don't need Hashem. What kind of lie is this? You don't need anybody. We all need somebody. Just either you're gonna accept it or you don't. But that human beings were created to be needy. We are created as needy beings, and so that we like we need to embrace the fact that we need each other, and we need our family, and we need so much. We need the government, we need the defense system, and we're needy. We're extremely needy, and so the that's why a person who doesn't have a karas hatov to people is not going to have a karas hatov to Hashem either. Okay? That's what Chazal say. The person doesn't have gratitude to their fellow man, so they're not going to have gratitude to Hashem either. And so this is like I like to say that in American culture, so if somebody asks you if you want the barakas, and so when I was a kid, if you didn't want the barakas, so you would say no, thank you. But since then, this is probably 20 years already, that the correct American thing to say is I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. So what does I'm good mean? Like it means like how dare you? Like how dare you even think that I need you? I'm good. Do I look not good to you? Do I look needy? Do I look like I'm not managing? Like what? And that's the worst thing, that you could tell somebody that you need something. That's the greatest insult. It's like it's actually consistent that in America, this is before I was born, that the American dream. Do you know what the American dream is? The self-made man. The self-made man is the American dream. You heard the term? So what's the Jewish dream? The God-made man. We don't aspire to be a self-made man. We think that is the greatest heresy. That is the greatest atheism. To try to want to be a self-made man it's a lie. It's a lie. We're not self-made men. We can't make it ourselves. We can't manage ourselves. So this is the reality that Hashem creates us with, the reality that we need Him. We need each other. We are needy. We are beggars. Okay. So the more that we get with the program, the more that we actually give in to the reality that we are needy, so the more truthful we are. Okay, so now this is true in general, but this is especially true when we want to stand before God. Because if you're going to stand before God, so then you certainly have to be true. You can't stand before God and be living a lie, right? So the more that you realize how much you're dependent on God, so the more that you're a beggar, so the more real your relationship with God is. Meaning that the more that your ego doesn't allow you to admit that you need Him, so your relationship with God is always going to be a little bit fake. It's going to be a little bit not real, because the truth is that you're completely dependent on Him. Okay, and so if you're going to admit the truth, then your relationship is going to be real. If you're not going to admit this reality, then your relationship is going to be fake. Okay, so that's why when it comes to tefillah, so it's the most necessary that we should be in this state of mind of being needy, of being beggars, and this actually is the answer to a philosophical question that a lot of Sfarim ask. They ask that how does prayer work? How does prayer work? Why not? Why shouldn't prayer work? So they explain that it actually doesn't make sense philosophically the prayer should work, because for prayer to work should require something called shinoi ratzon, that for God to change His thought. And how could God change His mind? Right? God, if like people, because their thinking process is imperfect, so they can realize that they made a mistake. But because God's thinking process is perfect, so it's illogical that God should change His mind. If whatever He thought the first time was the perfect thing to think, so how could He change from the most perfect thing to think? If He made a mistake, so right, so it doesn't make sense that the God is going to change His mind, right? The other options of how prayer could work also don't apply. Like with a human being, so if I ask my father for something and he says no, and I say please, so there's different things that could happen. Number one, it could be that I'm just so annoying that he wants to get me off his back, right? So he's going to say, fine, just take it and go away, right? That obviously is not applicable with Hashem because He loves all of us, right? Even the most annoying people among us. So there's no chance that He's going to want to get us away from Him. And the other thing that could happen is that I could explain to my father something that he didn't realize. That you think that I'm just bothering you because I want a car. Really, the reason I want a car is because if I have a car, then I won't have to ask you if I ride every time. It's for you. so things like that obviously it doesn't make sense with Hashem because Hashem knows everything. Like I'm not going to tell something to Hashem that He didn't know already, right? So how does prayer work? So a lot of commentaries note to answer this question that there's an interesting thing in the Lashon HaKodesh of davening. That how do we say to daven in Hebrew? Lehitpala. So grammatically, there's something very interesting in the word lehitpala, because grammatically this form of called hitpael is what we call in English reflexive. Right? What does it mean reflexive? It's something you do to yourself. Right? So we say lehit labesh, lehit rachetz. Right? So the things you do to yourself, so we say lehit. So it's very noteworthy that why does davening called lehitpala? Okay? I remember I was once speaking to this atheist friend of mine, and he's a trip because he actually davens, and he actually you would think that he's davening with a lot of kavanah if you would watch him, okay? But he really doesn't believe in God, right? So he was once explaining to me. Did you ever notice that lehit palel is actually reflexive? Right, reflexive. Like, what's reflexive? Because you're doing it to yourself. So really, you're just talking to yourself. Really, this is like the secret, like the secret that no rabbi is really allowed to tell you. That really you're just talking to yourself. And he was like, he thought that he cracked the code. He cracked the code that God isn't really listening to your prayers because there is no God. And this is like the secret that Chazal were hinting to in the fact that they called prayer lehit palel, because they really want you to, they're smart people to figure out the secret that there is no God and He's not listening to you. So, okay, although he's a little bit cuckoo, but he's a cute guy anyway, and I like the fact that he that he does connect with his Jewish identity, and I remember a bit when his first baby boy was born, he wasn't sure if he wanted to give him a bris because does he really believe in that, and it's brutality, and we should ask the baby what he wants, so he decided as a compromise because his wife is religious, so there wasn't really so he acquiesced for his wife, but instead of celebrating, he fasted as an act of compassion to his poor son that's being mutilated by the evil rabbi, and anyway, so shout out. What?
It's like Leitchaten, which is two people.
Interesting. Okay, well, you get married. You get married. You marry.
Yeah, but someone else. You don't marry yourself. You could be saying the two.
You participate. You participate in the process.
Like two, so it could be me to God and God to me.
No, Leit Chaten is that through your participation in the marriage, meaning to, you accept the ring, you agree to get married, and accept the ring. That's your participation. That's what you're doing to yourself. That you're in Chatenim. You're showing up to your wedding. You're standing under the chuppah, wearing a white dress. You're actively participating in your getting married.
I was learning
even in English,
it's two subjects.
I don't know. I think that over here there is a very simple answer. In Leit Palel, I think there's a very simple, meaning that even though my friend was obviously very wrong, and by the way, if we need to prove this, can anybody prove that God actually answers prayers? That God actually listens?
No. Prove it?
Prove it. Like a historical.
You could have anecdotal evidence, but
Anecdotal, yeah. A story like a historical story that shows that Judaism believes that God answers prayers.
You talking about from the Tanakh?
From the Tanakh, yeah, the Tanakh is full.
Shimshon.
I'm not saying it doesn't way before Shimshon. Also Shimshon. But a million stories that Abraham was davening for the Jewish people. The Jewish people were davening to be freed from slavery, and Eliyahu was and Yitzchak and Rivka were davening for children, and there's a million, like the whole, and Hashem, and it always says that they daven, and Hashem answered. It's very clear that anybody who thinks that Judaism doesn't believe that God answers your prayers is being intellectually dishonest.
They never said that.
What?
They never said that.
That's what this guy was saying, that from the fact that Lehit Palel, he was claiming that Judaism really doesn't. Anyway, so what's the real point? So why is Lehit Palel then reflexive? Why is Lehit Palel reflexive? So the Rishonim say that actually the act of prayer you need to change. That through prayer that you need to change, and because you changed, so that's why the response changes. Meaning that before you prayed, so the answer was no. But after you prayed, so something changed. So now that something changed, now the answer is yes. Okay, so it's not that Hashem changed, because what was the question? Hashem doesn't change his mind. Whatever was perfect, if before you davened, so the perfect answer was you should not get this job. So if after, what does anything change? If you please, so now the most perfect thing is that I should get the job. If I should have gotten the job, I would have gotten what's davening change anything? The answer is that I change. Okay, that the person himself changes, the person who's davening changes. So what does this mean? What does it mean that we change to daven? So some people they misunderstand. They think that it means that you become a little bit holier. You become a little bit godlier. You're more spiritual. It's another mitzvah. But that's not enough of an answer, because for that any mitzvah would suffice. And it's clear in the whole Tanakh that when you need something, your go-to should be tefillah, should be davening. Right? So it's not that you go to, so you should learn Torah, and in the merit of learning Torah, then you should. So what really changes? So what changes, the way that I change through the act of prayer is this point of recognition. That when I'm praying, so what am I really doing? If I'm really praying correctly, so I'm becoming a beggar. So because I'm standing before God and I'm recognizing that I need Him, I'm recognizing the fact that I can't manage without you. So I'm becoming a needy person. Because I'm becoming a needy person, I'm more in touch with reality. And so the way that some explain it is that Hashem, what He does is that He fills up all the empty vessels. So if you come before Hashem and you say, I'm good. So Hashem says, "Oh, you're good. Okay, sei gesund," and there's this joke about the guy that he's trying to find a parking spot, and he's going around and around and around, and he says, Hashem, if you find me a parking spot, I promise I'll go to yeshiva for a year. And then out of nowhere, like two cars just like separate, and like they're right in front of him. There's like this huge spot, and he says, "Oh, forget it! I manage myself." Like we have this we have this desire to not want to think that we needed Hashem. Like that was like it would be funny if it wouldn't be so sad. It's like we have this thing inside of us that I've had this I think I've told you before that I've had I had once this story with my with my third son, that he was going to some school, that there was a minibus that took him to school every day, and so it was my job to get him dressed and wash his face and make his lunch and get him down to wait for the bus for him, and so this bus driver, he was a very annoyed Israeli, impatient, loud bus driver. So if he would just come, he would a very loud very loud, long honk, like the most annoying kind of honk you can imagine. And then if you weren't there in 2 seconds flat, so then he just moved on. And him moving on, that would mean that you missed the bus. That would mean that now you have to either take a cab or take an hour there, an hour back, and it's not fun to miss for your son to miss the bus. So I was in constant stress not to have my son miss the bus. So I remember one day, I was getting him ready, and everything was ready except I couldn't find the second shoe. And so I'm looking here and there and everywhere, once, twice, 3 times. I'm turning over the entire house, and it's just not going. And thinking like maybe could he go without shoes? No, that's not not that Israeli. And so and I look at my watch, and the minibus is supposed to be here in 4 minutes. And I realized that it's not working. I'm not going to make it. And so I remember closing my eyes and say, Hashem, I need you. Find me the stupid shoe. And I promise you, I opened my eyes, and there was the shoe. Okay, so we lived happily ever after. We got downstairs. We made it in time, and so now since then, so I said, wow, yeah, go Kelstein, like you've got the secret. Hashem answers your prayers. Like this is, and so I've tried this sometimes, and specifically with lost objects, I've noticed that it's so difficult. It's so difficult to really realize that you can't manage yourself. It's ingrained in our system that we want to feel like we've got this, and like, okay, just in 1 more minute I'll find it. Like, and like to say, close your eyes and say, I am helpless. I cannot manage. It's so difficult. We're so programmed to not want to say that. So, and like, it's like and sometimes you can fake it and realize, you can say Hashem, I need you, and realize that deep down you don't really think that. You really deep down you think that like I've got this. Like somebody explained once that when we dive into Hashem, like most of our prayers to Hashem are that like Hashem, please, I've got this. Just don't mess me up. Like that's so the opposite of the truth. The truth is that we need Hashem. That we're totally dependent on Hashem. And so this is like the prayer that's answered. A prayer that gets answered is a prayer that recognizes that we actually need Hashem. Okay, this is how I once explained that this is what we say in Ashrei, that karav Hashem l'chol karav, that Hashem is close to anybody who calls out to Him, l'chol asher yikruhu be'emet, to anybody who calls out to Him with truth. So this is what I think it means. What does it mean to call out to Hashem with truth? It means that when you say you need Him, that you really believe that you need Him. That you're not just saying that you need Him. That's because that's what you're supposed to say. That you actually feel helpless. You actually feel like I cannot do this. Okay? And that's why it's hard. Like when we're able to get to that state of mind, then Hashem is going to answer you. But if you don't get to that state of mind, then there's no promises that Hashem is going to answer you. Okay? So this is how prayer actually changes us. That the more that we're getting in the mindset of prayer, so what we're really saying is that I embrace the fact that I am needy. I embrace the fact that I am not okay myself, and that is the truest and highest state by which I can stand before God. Okay, so that's how I changed, and by me changing, so that's why the answer, that's why the solution, the bottom line of what happens is going to change. That it's not that Hashem changed His mind, it's just it was always like that Hashem always says that whoever thinks that they can manage themselves should continue managing themselves, and whoever thinks that they need me, I'll help them. And so by becoming smaller, so that's how we become privy to this help from above. Okay, this is how prayer really works, and this is getting back to Torah and Tefillah. So when we're learning Torah, so more or less we think that we've got this, right? The person's gonna learn Torah, and like every single line, they say like, I have no idea what this means. And like, as you read the English, you have any clue? I don't have any clue. No, me neither. Okay, next line. You got any clue? I got no clue. Well, next line. So that's it's sad, but that's not learning Torah. Right? Learning Torah requires that we're in a state of mind that we understand, right? That we've got it. Right? If you're coming to Torah with a state of mind that I will never understand, I cannot understand. I know people like this, and that's not the correct mindset to learn Torah. So when we're learning Torah, so we're by definition we're embracing the mindset that I've got this. And when we're davening, so we're embracing the mindset of I haven't got this. I need help. So this is really the question. The question is that do I need help to get this, or do I get this in order to realize that I need help? Okay, which is really the more true state of mind. So Rebbe Nachman is saying that lasot min haTorah tefillot, that the ultimate goal is to turn the Torahs into tefillos. That the ultimate state of mind is the state of mind of being needy. And that's actually the truest way to stand before God. And because it's the truest way to stand before God, so that's why you're actually the most connected to God. Okay, meaning that it's not just a way of getting your answers, your prayers answered. That the reason why you get your prayers answered is because now you're truly standing before God. So because you're standing before God in an intellectually honest way, that your relationship is real. So if your relationship is real, so then you're able to connect. Right? Meaning that the more that I'm going to lie to you, so the more fake our relationship is, right? The more that I'm going to pretend I'm somebody else, so then our relationship is superficial because it's not real. So if I'm standing before God pretending that I'm somebody that I'm not, so then how real can our relationship be? So the truest reality is when I realize that I truly, truly need Him. So because I'm embracing the truth, so then and only then can our relationship be real. Okay, so that's why through tefillah a person is able to reach the highest level of dveikut. He's able to reach the highest level of connection that he can't through learning Torah. Okay, so this is why. This is one of the reasons why that it's important for a person to daven with our lips. Okay, it's important for us to daven with our lips, that with our speech. That is something that I remember bothering me when I was in fourth grade or so. I was like when I started like davening a lot from a sitter. So I remember that it was when we started like getting good at reading, when like I was able to read books, and so I thought that it would be much more efficient to just read the sitter with my eyes, and I thought that like the reading out loud, that's just like because when you're in first grade, so then you read out loud because that's what you do, because you don't realize that you can read with your eyes. But now I'm a big boy, so I can read with my eyes, and so like I remember like being so sure of myself that when the teacher told me to daven out loud, I said, no, it's okay, I'm good. So the question is that how come Hashem knows my thoughts, right? So if Hashem knows my thoughts. So why is it important? So why is it important to enunciate? Why is it important to speak it up? So the Maharal, other people, they explain so that what's special about speech. So special about speech is that it's your breath. That's your breath. That there's a Rebbe Nachman brings a pasuk in Tehillim. It says that Tehilati achatam lach. Tehilati achatam lach. And he says that the word achatam is connected to the word chotam, which means nose. So Rebbe Nachman says that you have to daven with your nose. Daven with your nose. So what does it mean? What does it mean to daven with your nose? So Rebbe Nachman explains that there's two things you do with your nose. You smell and you breathe. Okay, so there's something special about the sense of smell that it's most connected to the source of life, and that's why that the sense of smell is the most connected to our memories. And the reason why it's connected to our memories is because in the way that we experience life, so our experience of life, the smallest sense that we experience is the strongest of them is the sense of smell. Lahavdil, like this is a crazy person, but I remember during coronavirus, so I read some podcast of some podcast when you write things, blog. Some blogger was saying that since she lost her sense of smell through coronavirus, so nothing means anything anymore. Life is meaningless. It's not fun to go to parties. It's not fun to play tennis. It's not fun to hang out with her friends. It's nothing means anything anymore because she can't smell. So that's crazy. That's not okay. Okay, and everybody that doesn't have a sense of smell, like
There's advantage.
It's for Shlema, but like it's not the end of the world. Okay, but when I was trying to think, like, how could a person get like that's like what she really understands in an unhealthy way is that the truest experience of life is through your sense of smell. Okay, so there's a lot to talk about this in other contexts about why it's connected to memory, but for our context, so when the pasuk says Tehilati achatam lach, so Rebbe Nachman says that means that you need to daven with your nose, and what that means to daven with your nose, it means that davening needs to be experiential. It means that it's not enough to say the words. If you're just saying words, so then you're not davening, and davening requires that you experience something. So that means that you're changing your state of being. So what's it mean to change your state of being? That you're standing before God, and that changes you. That the experience, the exercise of standing before God is a different reality. I'm exiting this reality of whatever I was before, and now I'm in a new reality of standing before the source of everything, before the Creator. And so this change of experience requires a change of mentality. Like when I'm standing before my source, so then I realize how much I depend on Him. So that's what prayer is all about. So prayer is, number one, it requires an understanding of our dependency on Hashem, and number two, it requires that we experience that dependency, and that's what it means. That's what it means that that's what it means to call out to Hashem with truth. So this is what it means to be a holy beggar, and this is why the beggars of the world are the champions of the world, and this is why it's so awesome to be needy. And it's so true to be needy, and it's actually okay not to be okay, and it's not okay to be okay, right? That if you think that you're okay, then you're not okay. If you're not okay, then you're okay, right? So this is the state of mind of being needy, that to embrace the fact that we need Hashem, and the truth is that it's very beautiful, because when we embrace the fact that we're needy, so then we're opening ourselves up for growth, opening ourselves up for all the bracha, and there's the only way that we're going to get anywhere is if Hashem brings us to a higher place. So the only way that Hashem is going to bring us to a higher place is if we realize that we're not where we want to be. So I bless us all that we should realize how far away we are from where we want to be. We should realize how helpless we are. We should embrace the fact that we're very, very needy, and that it's okay, and that we should appreciate all the people around us, and appreciate the fact that we can't make it ourselves. And the truth is that it's really it's really a beautiful thing. The reason why Hashem created us to be needy is because life is actually much sweeter when we have people around us, when we feel connection to God. And that if we wouldn't feel needy, then we wouldn't have this need to reach out to God. We wouldn't have this need to reach out to people, and then our lives would be so empty. So I bless us all that we should really be able to embrace the fact that we need Hashem, that we need people, and that's going to lead us to much more fulfilling, satisfying, wholesome lives. B'ezrat Hashem. Okay.